Are you ready?
No more.
Good afternoon once again. Hope you had a chance to maybe get a little bite to eat, get a little nap or some rest. We're beginning the second part of the second part this afternoon. And I still don't know if I'm going to be able to finish everything today. I hope I can. But let me go ahead and just introduce myself again. I'm Shilly Kah, or Apostle Rabbi Vincent P. Adams, and I'm co-founder of Etz-Hayim, the Tree of Life, with my wife, Nabiah, or Prophetess Leslie Adams. And we have been engaged in the past 2 days in bringing to you a series on Islam called Religion. Islam is not a religion, and Allah the Antichrist. I think we've covered pretty thoroughly the basis for my statement. Islam is not a religion so far, and we're going to kind of be wrapping up that phase of the presentation and the series here momentarily, and then moving into the phase where I begin to bring support to the second part of my statement or title for this series, Allah the Antichrist. We've already gone over the peaceful surahs, the more, I should say, more relevant to today's situation, the military surahs where they want to come out and kill us, and we know that those surahs abrogate the peaceful surahs. And we've gone over that thoroughly. Just go back and listen to the beginning parts of this presentation. Now I want to kind of give some personal accounts to maybe help give you a little bit of an insight into me and what I'm about, because I know there are going to be some people say, well, he's some kind of a bigot. He's a religious bigot. He's this or he's that. He's promoting hatred or something. So maybe if I give some of my personal accounts, maybe that'll give you some insights as to how I feel about Muslims, Islam, Arabs, whatever. My first real encounter, first of all, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, from about age 12 on up. Before then, we lived in Chicago. I was born in Detroit. My family moved to Chicago when I was 2 and moved back to Detroit when I was 11. So I grew up in Detroit, on the northwest side of Detroit, in a part of Detroit that is maybe a mile or less than a mile away from Dearborn, Michigan. As you know, Dearborn has the highest concentration of Arabs or Muslims in this country outside of the Middle East.
And the largest mosque is there in the country.
The largest mosque in the country is also in Dearborn? Okay. So I've had encounters with Muslims since the age of 11. A great number of businesses in the Detroit area were brought out by Muslims when they, I guess, migrated to the area. They opened up a lot of different businesses and shops. So I have dealt with them in some form or fashion, like I said, ever since I was 11. The first, I would say, I'll call it a contact I had with the Muslim faith, or with someone in the Muslim faith, was through my first girlfriend, actually. When I was 17 years old and I was a freshman at the University of Michigan, Dearborn, I had a girlfriend, and her brother had gone off to college, and I believe through some professor there in that college had converted to Islam. And back then, we didn't know anything about Sunni Muslims, Shia, or anything. You were, if you said Muslim, the first thing we thought of was the Nation of Islam, which was Louis Farrakhan, Malcolm X, that sort of thing. And anyone who was a Muslim and was not affiliated with the Nation of Islam, we just call Orthodox Muslim. And her brother had converted and become an Orthodox Muslim. I mean, he walked around basically wearing a white sheet every day and had his, I think they call it a kifa on, his headdress. And he didn't live with his family anymore, but I would bump into him occasionally when I would go over to see my girlfriend. I don't want to mention names, and you'll see why as I tell the story. But I was 17, I think he was probably 19 or 20 or something like that, late teens or early 20s. And he had a 12-year, I may have told part of this yet, but he had a 12-year-old wife. Definitely illegal in this country. He had a 12-year-old wife. And I said, wow, I found that interesting at the time. And a couple of years after that, we dated for about close to 3 years. And after the end of our relationship, we were always friends. And he and some of his compadres or whatever were trying to blow up the mosque or the meeting hall of another rival set of Muslims there in Detroit. And he and these guys had gone in and they had poured gasoline all over the floor. And, we're going to burn down or blow up that mosque, that rival mosque or meeting hall there in Detroit. And this is one of the reasons why today they want your water heater to be about 6 inches or 12 inches off the floor. And this particular water heater that was installed wasn't installed according to today's code. This was back in the mid-70s in Detroit. And they poured down so much gasoline that some of it splashed into the pilot light of that water heater. And that ignited all the gasoline. I think he didn't burn up, but he was asphyxiated by all of the smoke and the fumes that created. And it was all in the newspapers and everything. Now, here was a young man. His father was a lawyer, mother a school teacher. Upper middle class, very, well-to-do upper middle class family, educated, nice home. He's out wearing a sheet every day that he never washed. I got downwind of him one day and I almost passed out. He comes from that type of a background, home meticulously decorated. They had $6,000, $10,000, $20,000 paintings hanging on the wall that they had purchased. They invested in art. Upper middle class, upscale, well-to-do. Like I said, home meticulously decorated in one of the, as they say, fashionable parts of town in Detroit. And that's the life that he chose after he converted to Islam. And just put himself on the outside of everything. 12-year-old wife trying to blow up another rival mosque there in the Detroit area, got killed himself. So that was kind of one of my first brushes with Islam, other than going into various places of businesses that were owned by Arabs or Muslims, and doing business with them, buying groceries or what have you, gas stations, things like that. My next brush was simultaneous with the first. When I graduated from high school, I did my freshman year at the University of Michigan Dearborn campus. Emphasis on Dearborn campus. There were quite a few Muslims attending the University of Michigan at the Dearborn campus, of course, since Dearborn is the highest concentration of Arabs and Muslims in the United States. it would stand to reason that the University of Michigan Dearborn would have a large body of Muslim and Arab students.
Mhm.
And during my freshman year, I ran for one of the political offices on campus in the student body. It's called the Organization of Black Students. And they had campus-wide elections, and I decided to run for, some of my friends from high school that also attended the University of Michigan Dearborn campus. And Vince, you ought to run, man. And so I ran for Minister of Defense and got elected. Primarily the girls voted for me. And to me, it was just a popularity contest. That's all it was to me. I'm 17 years old, just out of high school. It was just a popularity contest as far as I was concerned. I was starting to assert myself socially, starting to kind of come out of my shell from high school, the geek that I was in high school and that sort of thing, and become more outgoing and get, a little bit more involved in extracurricular activities. And I remember after I became Minister of Defense, there was an organization on campus for the Arab and Muslim students. I forget the name of it, but they reached out to me because they had seen me around. I was very outgoing at this time, and I was always hanging out around campus and everything. I had an apartment on campus. I didn't commute back and forth between Detroit and the campus there in Dearborn. I stayed on campus, so. Like I said, I got elected. I was just very visible, very outgoing, very gregarious. And, I had hung out with a lot of the Muslim students also.
Mhm.
And so their organization, after I became Minister of Defense, like I said, I was well known. Their organization reached out to me. They wanted a meeting with me. And got together, got a couple of my friends, and I said, hey man, these Arabs want to meet with me. And they did not want to meet with the Organization of Black Students main council, the president, vice president, and so forth. They didn't want to meet with them, but they wanted to meet with me. And I found that a little odd. And I don't know, I just had an uneasy feeling about it for some reason. So I asked a couple of my friends from that we went to high school together. I said, why don't you guys come on with me to this meeting? They want to meet with me for some reason first. They don't want to just sit down with the council as a whole, but they want to make contact possibly with the council with me first, which I thought was kind of strange. It seems like if you wanted to have an inroads into or set up some sort of dialogue, why not just ask to come to one of our meetings or ask us to come to one of your meetings? It was just that easy. Why this somewhat clandestine meeting just with me for some reason? And in that meeting, they started telling me things, hey, we're put down just like you guys are. They call us the niggers of Dearborn, is what they told me. They would say that over and over again during that meeting. How the white folks called them the niggers of Dearborn in the city of Dearborn at that time. The fact that Dearborn has the highest concentration of Arabs, and the Arab and Muslim, Middle Eastern population is pretty much taken over Dearborn now. They really dominate that. That's their city now. You can really say that's their city,
Mhm.
which is quite phenomenal because Dearborn used to be one of the most racist cities in the North. It was ruled by a man named Orville Hubbard. He was the mayor of Dearborn, Orville Hubbard. And if you were black, you knew not to go to Dearborn. Blacks just were not welcome in Dearborn. I don't think too many blacks live in Dearborn now. But he successfully kept that little small town, which is right smack next to Detroit. He kept it white for a long time. until the Arab and Muslims started moving in and eventually took it over. But at that time, I guess, well, there were still a lot of whites in Dearborn, and I guess they were remembering the good old days, and calling the Arabs, the niggers of Dearborn and that sort of thing. And they kept saying that, and they were talking about doing something together, and I didn't say a word. Me and my friends, we were just almost silent throughout the whole meeting. And I don't know, never could figure that out. They didn't ask for any more contact after that. But over many years, and the way things are now, I know now that they were trying to convert me. That they were basically feeling me out to see what how radical was I? Was I going to start saying, well, yeah, white man this, the government of America that, and we ought to do this, and we ought to do that. I know now they were testing me to see if I was someone possibly that they could use or maybe convert to Islam because they thought I had influence there on campus. It wasn't that I had any influence, I was just the loudest talker at the time. I talked a lot and I was just very, very social. So they thought I must have some influence. And if they could get to me, they can get to the larger black student body as well. And who knows, maybe have several converts out of the black student body to Islam, and what a force we could have been for whatever. And I realized I was being kind of checked out for those reasons. The next brush that I had was after I had transferred up to the main campus, the Ann Arbor campus, up to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, which is the main campus there in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And one of my fraternity brothers called me up one day, and he said, Vince, I'm messing around, I'm dating this Arab girl. I said, well, you dating the Arab girl? I said, oh, okay. He said, yeah, and she wants me to meet her brother today. He's coming up, and she wants me to meet her brother. I said, yeah, okay. He said, I want you to be there. They're coming up to my dorm room at such and such a time, and she wants me to meet her brother, and I want you to come. I said, why? For some reason, I guess he was feeling uneasy about something. So I came at a little early at the time he told me to come, and he told me about, he was seeing her and everything, and her brother was coming up for a weekend from Dearborn, and staying with her a few days on campus, and she wanted him, she wanted to introduce him to her brother. So they came up and I was there, and they started talking, we started talking about this, that, and the other. And we got around to the Israeli PLO situation at that time. This was probably in 77, 78. And she started, oh boy, she just got really fired up when she started talking about it. And she was saying that, I think Menachem Begin was in office in Israel at that time. And she said, oh, that Benaf, I can't stand him, I hate him. Let me tell you what happened. There were some guys over in Israel. I think she said Jerusalem. I can't remember what city exactly. But she said all they wanted to do was go on the bus and take some hostages. I said, really? They wanted to take hostages on this bus. And she said, yeah. And she said, you know what that Menachem Begin did? I said, no, what did he do? He had them killed. He had them killed. I said, really? And she said, yes, had them killed. And all they wanted to do was just take a few hostages. And at this time, the way I am, I'm starting to be sarcastic and cynical. And I said, really? He had them killed? She said, yes, had them killed. And all they wanted to do was just take a few hostages? Yes! That's all, just a few? Yes, just a few! And a little brother's kind of catching on by now, a brother. And he's kind of like, sis, you know, why don't you shut up? he's starting to sound stupid. Because I just kept right on, you know, I just kept, really? That's all, just a few hostages? And he had them killed? Yes, had them killed! You know, and my fraternity brother name, we call him Fudge. That was his last name, Fudge. So we always called him by his last name, Fudge. And Fudge is kind of, who is this woman this girl I'm dating here, you know? So, what am I doing? You know, he's kind of, you know, that's how she thinks. You know, and like I said, that went on for a few minutes before, you know, it kind of caught on and you know, we talked some more about the PLO and everything and what was going on in Israel and so forth and so on. And I kind of think that her brother was kind of coming up there maybe to recruit my fraternity brother, Fudge, you know, some kind of way, you know. But then I happened to be there and getting all, you know, cynical and sarcastic about stuff. But that was the next brush that I had, and, you know, and from that I said, that's how those people think. You know, I mean, this is just not some airhead girl here. I mean, she's a student at the University of Michigan. You don't get into the University of Michigan without a 3-something GPA and high SAT and ACT scores. I mean, I had my SAT and ACT scores were in the top 3% of the nation in math and science when I graduated from high school. And you better have those high SAT and ACT scores or a high GPA or be able to run like lightning and get on the football team if you want to get in, you know, get into the University of Michigan. It didn't, the standards for getting in was, you know, pretty high. So we weren't talking about just some little airhead girl off the street. You know, she had to have something going on academically and intellectually to even be a student at the University of Michigan. So I concluded by no means was her attitude, her mental state of mind, and her viewpoint just related to just her. I looked at her as a reflection of the community at large. They're in Dearborn, and Arabs, you know, maybe in this country as a whole. I said, it may not be all of them, but it's got to be some of them. And I thought that is, you know, and even if it's just a few, to have the attitude that all these guys wanted to do was just take some hostages. And because Banaf and Begin ordered their special forces, the SWAT team, to storm the bus and not negotiating and kill them, to think that was heinous for him to do was just absolutely ridiculous. If someone was holding me hostage, I hope somebody would storm something and kill somebody and get me free. But that was, in her way of thinking, that was just absolutely absurd that the leader of Israel would order this. And I just kind of said, man, those people got a funny way, they got a different way of looking at things. Mm-hmm. Very different way of looking at things. Just thought that, you know, didn't give it any more thought after that day too much after that. And years later, I would probably say the next brush that I had with someone who was Muslim was right after college. I got a job in Chicago, just outside of Chicago, near the airport, with a company called DeSoto Chemical. I majored in chemistry and biology. I wanted to go to med school. That didn't happen. And so what am I going to do? Been taking all these chemistry, biology, and physics courses and calculus, ever since high school. So not going to go to med school. What am I going to do with my life now? So I thought about becoming a chemist. And so I got a job with DeSoto Chemical, and they produced or did all of the R&D, research and development for Sears Roebuck and Company. Anything that Sears put on the market, from their paints or anything that had to do with chemistry, DeSoto Chemical did the research and development on it. So I was a chemical technician in research and development. In the lab, there were a group of us, and there was this guy's name, I believe, was Samir, but we called him Sam. Sam was just a good time guy. Everybody liked Sam. He was real outgoing and gregarious, and we would hang out. He would hang out with us. We'd hang out with him, after work, and clown around at work, telling jokes and everything. And Sam was, he was Muslim, and just a great guy. Loved being around Sam. Loved to go to work just so we could hang out with Sam. And Sam always had jokes to tell. He had things that he would tell about that happened in the Middle East that would be funny. Stuff that can't happen in America, because it's America. He would tell us stories about different things. And Sam was just a fantastic guy. And this was in 1980. And at that time, it came out on the news that a princess of Saudi Arabia was on the news, was going to be executed because she wasn't a virgin. And it was on the news that she was going to be executed. And I think one of the local TV stations there in Chicago, one of the, back in those days, we still didn't quite have cable. They had something called, don't do that. Had something called UHF channels. And I think one of the UHF stations was going to was going to do a little documentary about him. It was going to do a story on it. And it was all over Chicago about this Saudi princess that was being executed. It was in the news, especially in Chicago. I don't know about elsewhere. And I said, executed because of not being a virgin. I was like, wow, that's a bit harsh, and that's a bit medieval or whatever. And I remember asking Sam about it. Sam, man, what is this? How can this go down? What's the deal with this? I remember Sam saying, well, yeah, it's happened. In my country, if a girl isn't a virgin, she can be executed. He said, but we really don't want to talk about that. We just kind of like to keep that private. And I respected Sam's wishes at that time. I said, okay. Sam was cool. He didn't fly off the handle. He didn't get all upset or mad at me or anything. He just said, yeah, Vince, in my country, in Saudi Arabia, a girl can be executed for not being a virgin. And, but, that's kind of our business over there. And we don't really want to talk about that too much or whatever. Seemed cool to me. Back then, I was cool. If you're cool, you say you don't want to talk about something, man, that's personal, that's private. Oh, man, that's all right. That's your business, hey. Not realizing the greater implications of things at that time. I was young, about 20, 21, and all right, it's not happening over here, no big deal. And that was before we got a taste of what we call today radical Islam. That was just before the Ayatollah Khomeini took over the American embassy in Iran and held our diplomatic staff hostage for over a year. For 400 and some odd days, they were hostages over in Iran. So we hadn't gotten a taste of what we now call radical Islam or Islamic terrorists until then. That was the beginning of that, back in 1980, when that happened, 1980 or 81. when Jimmy Carter, was president. So that was a few brushes with Islam, and it's funny, my first encounter, through my girlfriend's brother. He's got a 12-year-old wife, and he's trying to blow up another mosque. To my next encounter is with a girl from Dearborn who is wondering why Menachem Begin executed or killed a couple of young Palestinians who wanted to take hostages. To my next encounter was with Sam, who, was just cool as can be, loved being with Sam, and then asking Sam, why are they executing, this girl in Saudi Arabia? And then shortly after that, the news breaks that the Ayatollah Khomeini and his followers are holding stormed our embassy and are holding several members of our embassy staff hostage for over a year, well over a year, for about 400 and some odd days, about almost a year and a half, a year and 3 or 4 months. So I'm like, wow, okay, this Islam thing, I still wasn't putting the pieces together yet. Still wasn't quite putting the pieces together. Then my next brush was, I had a fraternity brother who had converted to Islam. Won't mention his name either. And he was trying to play professional basketball. He had played college basketball, and he had been cut by a number of professional teams, but he was still trying to make the roster with some professional basketball team. And between going to training camp, he would get an offer from this organization or training camp to come try out. Between his tryouts, he would work for me. I had taken over, my father had passed, and this was in '83. And my father had passed, my father owned a couple of seafood restaurants and a barbecue place in the Chicago area. And when he passed, I took them over. And so he would work for me, and then we were always talking about Christianity, and he was telling me about Islam, and he says he's Orthodox Islam. He's not with the Nation of Islam and Farrakhan. He said originally he was with them, and he had been converted while in college by some professor on the campus who had converted him to Islam. And we would talk about stuff, and he would start telling me some of the teachings and beliefs of the Nation of Islam, what we call the Black Muslims. And he was telling me how the Black Muslims taught that the white man was an experiment that got out of the lab, that got loose out of the lab. I said, you're kidding me, they actually teach that? He said, yeah, that's a teaching of the Nation of Islam. And I said, man, that's something. And then I heard, I listened to him, he would tell me all kind of stuff and everything. And it really didn't connect with me until, that was around the time of the Million Man March that came up, or a couple of years later, so I can't remember exactly, but they had a representative of the Nation of Islam, the Black Muslims, on some TV show during the Million Man March, because I didn't support the Million Man March. Because I said, how can I support the Million Man March when it's being headed up by Farrakhan, who is preaching against Jews and whites? I said, I have Jewish friends and white friends. I didn't even know I was Jewish at the time. I was just still your Presbyterian, Christian or whatever you want to call me. But I said, how can I participate in that? And I've got white and Jewish friends. They said, because if they would come to me and say, how can you support him and he wants to kill me? I wouldn't have an answer for him. Back then, some of you may not remember, there was a guy running for political office here named David Duke out of Louisiana, who used to be a grand wizard in the Ku Klux Klan. And I used to use the analogy, how could I support if I had a white friend told me he liked David Duke, he couldn't be my friend if he's going to support somebody in the Ku Klux Klan. So how can I, support this thing that Farrakhan is uh, promoting? And they were talking to this guy, and they asked him, I don't know where they got the question from or got the nerve to ask him, because I never even heard of it. But it came up, they asked him, do you consider the white man an experiment? And he was like, yeah, we teach that, I was like, man, he's admitting it on TV. I said, Booker was telling the truth. Oh, I mentioned his name. He was telling the truth. They actually teach this. And then I subsequently learned that the Nation of Islam also believes that there's going to be a spaceship and aliens that is going to come back for the black man at some point in time. This spaceship is going to come back and pick us back up, take us away to a better place. The Nation of that's also something that the Nation of Islam teaches. And I immediately started. Anybody if I met from the Nation of Islam, I would tease them. And, I don't know if you know anything about George Clinton, the musician, the black musician who made Atomic Dog, and is considered the godfather and a pioneer of funk music, F-U-N-K music. But he made this record back around 77, 78, an album called The Mothership.
No.
And there was a local DJ in the Detroit area every night at midnight to begin his radio show. He would land the mothership to start off his radio show. And I was working in the factory at the time in the summer. That's how I made enough money to go back to school. And I had my headphones on, and around midnight I'd be on the line on my machine, hanging still, and he would always play the song, I'm landing the mothership, the mothership is coming down. He start off with that, and they play the song, Make My Funk the P-Funk. And so whenever I get around black Muslims, I tease them, and I go, Make my funk the P-Funk. The mothership coming, man. The mothership. Start teasing about believing that a spaceship is actually coming back for black people. But that's what the Nation of Islam teaches. The white man is an experiment. They got loose, broke free out of the lab like an experimental monkey. And a spaceship of aliens or extraterrestrials are going to come back and pick us back up and take us out of here, away from the white man. Now, they don't get on national TV. When Farrakhan makes his national appearances, they don't mention that belief. Okay? But like I say, these Muslims, boy, they've got some funny ideas. These different sects of Muslims, I don't know what to say. Mothership coming, white man is an experiment, they got loose, and all this, that, and the other. So, my frat brother was my next, we had many conversations about this. He was saying, Christianity is a white man's religion, and he used to have some funny, so I just laughed at him when he said, he would go, Vince, how's the black man ever going to have respect for himself and have self-respect and self-esteem if he's constantly on his knees looking up to a white man on a popsicle stick, praying to a white man on a popsicle stick? And I just laughed and I said, well, you're crazy, you're nuts. You need to stop with that foolishness and everything. And sometimes we go eat at a restaurant. If the restaurant was, this was in Chicago, the restaurant was owned by Muslims. They come out and I get into a debate with them about Christianity and God and stuff like that. And even back then, before I before I knew I was called to the ministry or anything, for some reason, stuff would rise up in me when people would say ignorant stuff about my religion. I would defend it. I would say, okay, give me I've always kind of been that way.
Mhm.
And I've always had these, for some reason, had these encounters and run-ins with Muslims at various times, different times in my life, really beginning from 77 on into
That's very
no,
interesting.
75, really, from 75 into the early to mid 80s. I've had these encounters,
That's interesting.
and so, like I said, had that encounter. And then we got married, and I got married in Connecticut, and we moved from Connecticut down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because my Navial Leslie used to run track for LSU, and she had a chance at the Olympics. At the which Olympics were you training for again?
92.
Not 92, 96?
I was trying to get 96, yeah.
96 Olympics. We got married in 93, at the end of 93. So we went back to Baton Rouge so that she can train there, at her alma mater for the 96 Olympics. And while we were there, on college campuses, they always have various individuals that maybe have caused some kind of controversy here or there. And all college campuses do this. And they were having, I believe his name was Dr. Leonard Jeffries. He was a Muslim, and he was a professor of Black history or African history, I think, at New York University. And he had made some comments about Jews that had caught the attention of the national media. And people were calling for him to resign and for New York, NYU to fire him. And, he had been or was or is a member of the Nation of Islam. I think he had gone more to an orthodox view of Islam. But he had these really radical views about Jews and Black history. And he and another professor from NYU were going to be visiting the LSU campus, Louisiana State University. And so I was aware of the controversy, aware of everything that had happened in the media. And I had, at that time, even before we moved from Stamford, Connecticut down to LSU, I ran a number of programs, cultural programs, at the various community centers and churches in Fairfield, Connecticut, called the Nile Valley Shule. And I taught various Afrocentric cultural programs to not only Blacks, but all races. I taught at the Boys and Girls Club of, what's that little town below Stanford? Little Rich Greenwich.
Yeah, Greenwich.
In Greenwich.
Yeah.
Greenwich, and I had my program, goodness, in probably about 5 or 10 different community centers all over the county of Fairfield. And several, about 3 or 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, at least 4 different community centers, including the Boys and Girls Club of America, and 1 church, and a couple other community centers. But all over Fairfield County, I was teaching my program. So I had an interest in Black history and Black culture in America. And so when they came, knowing that they had national attention, I was aware of the controversy. When they came to LSU, I went to hear them speak. And I was quite surprised. They were Muslims, and people from the Nation of Islam showed up. When they come, they're all in suits, and they come in a line and they stand around and look at you like this,
Mhm.
and they just stand. They stand in military formation, in a line, and they just look around the room. They don't sit out
Very
from the Nation of
intimidating.
Islam, and so they were given their synopsis about whatever they were giving it on. But what was surprising was the fact that they were Muslims and they were advocating trying to get black people to turn away from being Muslim and trying to get them to become, to practice African religions. Basically, they were admitting that they made a mistake in becoming Muslims. Now they want black people to start practicing African religions, native African religions. And they were acknowledging the fact that they can't, if you take something away, you have to replace it with something. And I said, my goodness, isn't this interesting? They go, but they still held on to Islam until they came up with, to see if they could, with this grand experiment that they were trying to do and get, just running from Jesus and Yeshua and Christianity, because they just considered that too white. So they jumped into Islam because at least that wasn't, in their opinion, white. Now they're through with Islam, or they're seeing that Islam is, oh, we made a mistake with Islam. And now they want people to get into an African religion, something like that. I mean, literally, as they said, something like that. That was polytheistic, many different gods. Said so. Talk about Yoruba princesses, and the gods that they pray to, and so forth and so on. And these are very well-educated black men who were into Islam, now trying to pull people into something else. I mean, getting as far and far away from the truth as they possibly can, going back now to polytheism, more than one God. Several, many different gods. 5, God of the air, God of the river, God of the mountain, God of the trees, all of that type of stuff. And I remember talking with him afterwards. I was trying to get some information and clarity, and I was asking some questions. And there were a couple of Muslims standing around, and one or two of them began to get real upset with me. And he had to calm them down. But I was still persistent, in my questions. And he said he was going to send me some literature to read and gave me his number and everything, but he never followed up. I didn't know at that time that they were prone to lie. Okay. So that was another brush with that. Okay. Some black Muslims who now were realizing that, really Islam is not all that great. I believe his name was Dr. Leonard Jeffries. I'm almost sure that was his name. I can't remember his other associate colleague with him. And so now that was probably in 1994 or 95 when that happened, I believe. It was early to mid 90s. Definitely after 93, probably might have been late 93, could be late 93, somewhere between late 93 and 95. I believe. So, okay. And then I had a couple of clients who were Muslim that I did some commercial appraisals for on their real estate holdings. They own some commercial property. Nothing to speak of there. Only that they had been arrested for killing someone at some point in time, 20 or 30 years ago, and got out, because they were supporting the Nation of Islam or something like that down there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I remember him telling me about that. He's a black man and his PhD in chemistry. So nothing real significant there. And then I received my call into the ministry in the summer of 1994, and the Society, the Society for Biblical Literature had their international convention in New Orleans one of those years. and I went to it. And basically, this is an organization of professors at various universities and colleges around the world who teach religion or teach about any religion, not just Christianity, but any religion whatsoever. And I remember we went to that, and there were blacks there who were Muslim, who were in the African religions and Buddhists. There were all kinds of people there. And one of the meetings that I went to, I basically got shouted down because they were. What I discovered from that meeting is that there, in a lot of black churches, there are people who have advanced degrees in religions around the country, but they go to Christian churches, but they don't believe in God. They're polytheists. They believe in various forms of African religions or whatever. Some of them are Muslim, but they still go to Christian churches, either for the social outlet or social networking or whatever. And a lot of black preachers think that since they have these advanced degrees in religion, they say, oh, we'll make so-and-so the director of the Sunday school. Or we'll put them in charge of this, or put them in charge of that. And they do that, not realizing they're really being infiltrated by Muslims, polytheists, and in some cases, maybe even atheists. And I realized that there was a movement here in America, in black churches, where this was happening. Where, the preachers weren't really letting the Spirit guide them. They were looking at people's credentials that they had. If they could hang something on the wall from some university that made them look impressive, and they felt that if they had this person in their congregation and they put them in charge of this, that made them look very erudite and scholarly. And, maybe other influential and affluent blacks would join that church because Dr. So-and-so is a member and head of the such and such department or this department in the church or so forth. So I put that together, what I had heard Leonard Jeffries say about, hey, we're going to abandon Islam now and go into African religion. And then I went to the Society of Biblical Literature and I heard other black professors talking the same thing. Okay, and they're at the university level. They're teaching in universities, and in some cases at liberal seminaries. I said there is definitely an effort here to circumvent Jesus, circumvent Yeshua, circumvent the authority and validity of scriptures for whatever. So that, be aware. When you go back to your churches, wherever they are, take a second look at things. Ask people what they really believe. Do you believe in the Trinity? You're probably going to get a song and a dance. Do you believe that Yeshua HaMashiach, or if you say Jesus Christ, do you believe that Jesus Christ was fully God and fully man? That he died, was crucified on the cross, died, rose again? Answer that specifically, no song and dance. That he was conceived by the Holy Spirit, by the Holy Ghost, and born of the Virgin Mary. I bet you'll get some answers that will shock you. If you start drilling people like that, you might find out a thing or two that you didn't know. They may be coming from an Islamic perspective, they may be coming from a polytheistic perspective with African religions or Wicca or some other form of witchcraft. But things aren't what they appear to be all the time. We kind of chase that rabbit a little bit, getting back focused purely on Islam. I came to, here to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the fall of '98 to attend seminary at Oral Roberts University, Graduate School of Theology and Missions, and joined a local church here. And in that church was a gentleman. I won't mention his name either. He might not mind, but I won't mention his name either, just in case. But he was a former, he had converted from Islam to Christianity. And I ministered with him on several occasions there. Great guy, really loving, terrific guy. And one time we had a small gathering where we met, the leadership of the church, the upper leadership of the church. We met at someone's home just for a night of entertainment and some fellowship. And he gave us his testimony of how he converted from Islam to Christianity. And he said he had gotten a job. He's an engineer. He's like a petroleum engineer. And he had gotten a job, one of the first jobs he had out of college. He's from the Middle East too. He didn't grow up here in America. And it was on an oil platform out in the middle of the North Sea. And the people that worked on it, I guess you stay on the platform 3 to 6 months at a time or long periods of time. And they actually had their entire families on the platform with them living. And they had their little kids. So on Sunday, they didn't have a preacher or anything like that, but they still wanted to observe the Sabbath on Sunday. And so they gave everybody a task to do. And even though he's a Muslim, they made him in charge of the Sunday school. He had to teach the little kids for Sunday school. So that forced him to read the Bible.
Oh.
So he became acquainted with the Word of God because they made him read the Bible because he had to, everybody had to do something. I guess they had gotten together and said, everybody's going to participate in this somehow or whatever. So he had to teach Sunday school. He wasn't even a Christian. Mm-hmm. But he had to read the Bible in order to teach the Sunday school class. So he became familiar with the scriptures. And he said later on when he got to the United States, here, Oklahoma is oil country, and we have a lot of the large oil companies have corporate entities here. And so he was trying to get a job, I think with Shell or one of the oil companies here in Oklahoma. And he said he prayed before he went in for the interview. And he said he ended his prayer with, he's still a Muslim now, but he ended his prayer in Jesus' name. And he got the job. And he said ever since then he's been a Christian. Okay. And he was telling us, he said, you don't have any idea. Now this is what he said directly to me and a group of 5 or 10 of us. He said, y'all do not have any idea of the level of hatred that my people have for you and how deep it goes. You have no idea. You can't, you don't even fathom. You don't even fathom the depths of it. He said, since I've converted to Christianity, if I was to go back home, my brother would have to kill me. I don't know if he said he would do it, but he said his brother would have to kill him. I can't remember if he said he would have to kill him or if he said his brother would kill him. One or the other, have to kill him, would kill him. He would be, bottom line, he would be obligated to kill him under the rules of their faith. And he just struck me. I mean, he just got real serious. He said, you don't even know about it. You don't even think about it. You don't have a clue as to how much they hate you over there. How much they hate Americans, how much they hate Christians, how much they hate the West. They just hate us. And this is from somebody who used to be them. I mean, this man, he's walks in the gifts of the Spirit, powerful Christian man now. And I remember watching one of the local TV shows here in Tulsa of a former Muslim here in the area, and he had guests on, and they said the same thing. You don't have any idea how much they hate you. I've heard that from at least one in person and one or two on TV here locally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Said you don't have any idea how much.
What was his name?
And who's?
The one in the church?
You know the one in the church. I didn't want to say his name.
Oh, you didn't want to say it? Okay.
You know, I can't remember the name. You know, he's got the ministry there. We've been there. We've ministered there. That down there on Riverside. On one of his shows, he had somebody who had converted.
Oh.
But they all say the same thing when they convert. Say, you guys are really in the dark about what's going on. You know, they hate us over there. Muslims hate us. Yet and still, our news media keeps saying, well, moderate Islam, moderate Islam. Something funny is going on with this stuff. You know, my son who goes to Oklahoma Baptist, I mentioned this yesterday, goes to Oklahoma Baptist University, told me he had a lot of Bedouin friends from Saudi Arabia. And he said, he asked them, hey, what's going on? What's the deal with, this radical terrorism, the radical Islam thing? They were saying basically out in the rural areas, people are kind of just trying to live life, trying to survive, make a living. But when you go into the more populated areas in the cities, the large majority of people in those large populated areas, look at it. They hate Christians. They hate Jews. They hate the West. Now, he could have just been saying that. Maybe it's everywhere. Maybe it's the rural areas and the urban areas. Because he's from the rural area, he said, well, in the rural areas, we kind of not like that. He might not have wanted to say that to him, but he definitely said in the urban areas, without a doubt, you can't go there. So when I look back and I string all of these experiences together about Islam, about what they themselves have told me, I'm not talking about what I heard on the news. I'm not talking about something that I picked up off the internet. I'm talking about my own life experiences over the years when I've had contact with Muslims. If I string them and put them all together, it comes out to be totally negative. It comes out to be violent. It comes out to be violence towards women, having a 12-year-old wife. It comes out to be bigoted. Every experience. Violence towards women, executing women because they're not virgins. Bigoted toward unbelievers, wanting to kill us. How many times have we watched the news and we hear maybe of a Muslim killing his daughter or his sister because she got raped by some guy or guys, and that's brought dishonor, and they kill her. They kill her. And then the newscaster will say, well, that's a tribal thing. That's not no basis. There's no basis in Islam for that. Or what they kind of hide the truth a little bit. They'll say there's no basis in the Quran for that. But it's in Sharia law. Under Sharia law, you can only kill a Muslim if it's a soul for a soul. Let's say a Muslim killed another Muslim, then he can be tried and found guilty and put to death. Soul for soul. Okay? The other one is, the only way you can kill a Muslim is if he leaves the faith, if he becomes apostate. Let's say he was a Muslim and he converts to Christianity or anything. He can legally be killed, put to death. The third reason that you can kill a Muslim is if it's the
adultery.
It's 4 right there. That's 1 for adultery, and if it is your offspring, your son or daughter. That's the basis in Sharia law that they get for what they call the honor killing. If my daughter gets raped, I have to restore my honor. If I go out and kill her, then I can't be charged with anything. Because under Sharia law, I killed my own offspring, no charge. But you can kill someone, a woman for adultery. Just this past week, Monday, October 1st, 2012, NBC, on their nightly news program, ran the story of a woman in Afghanistan who was executed for adultery. They showed her sitting in the dirt and the member of the Taliban holding the AK-47, getting ready to shoot her. And then they cut it right when he got ready to shoot her. We found it on the internet showing the actual execution. You want to set it up? Will this zoom in on the TV where they can see it?
It doesn't zoom in too well because the camera counts TV as a light and it doesn't glare.
Okay, never mind. We'll send you. We have set it up. We'll send you the connection where you can go and look at it yourselves. If you can find that, Leslie, I'll announce it while we have it on right now. But else we'll send it out to you before I get through. If you will do that. But it was on NBC News, 5:30 Central Time News here. They actually showed it.
All you gotta do is like a band execution video.
A woman being executed.
Yeah, I'm just gonna test it out just to see if it can be played. If I just hold this thing in
Maybe
front
it's
of you.
close enough, it might work.
Alright.
No. But
You may have to zoom out for it to be clearer.
that is what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing with Islam. In my personal life, when we turn on the TV, just last month in 9/11.
Okay. Zoom out.
What is it pretty long or something?
I don't know. Let me think I see it.
Can they see it?
Not too well.
Not too well. Oh, you're trying to. Okay, I see. I didn't understand.
Can't see it.
Can't see it.
Oh,
Maybe
that's
try
froze.
closer to the camera.
It's froze. They did 9 rounds on her.
Can you just tell her what the connection is?
The connection is, if you just Google Taliban execution video, there's plenty to see.
Is it too long to just tell them what it is?
It's free to right there.
You can put it inside the description of the video. So,
Alright,
Just tell them what the connection is.
that's a
let me
long.
go that.
It's too long.
Yeah, you can put the link inside the description of the video, so people like watch the recording or something.
Well, Taliban execution. It was shown on NBC Nightly News, the 5:30 Central Time, 5:30 here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
It happened in July though.
Huh?
It actually happened in July.
It actually happened in July, but NBC News showed it on TV
After this 9/11 stuff going on.
October 1st, 2012. So there you have it. We've sort of did a side-by-side comparison. We did a study of the surahs that sort of mock our religion or condemn it. We did a study of the surahs that say, hey, let's peacefully coexist. And then we showed you the ones where they say, hey, we can't be friends with them. We're just going to go out and kill them. And again, the ones where they can't be friends with us and they have to go out and kill us, abrogate or eliminate the ones that say that they can. We've shown you the literature and the surahs about how they lie. I can't see why anyone would choose to be a Muslim after going over this material. I don't see how you can make that as an intelligent choice. I understand, though, that if that's all you've known all your life, if that's the only religion taught in your country, in your land, or even in your household, I understand. All of us, including myself, and a lot of people are going to take offense with this statement, but for the most part, at some point in time, if you have practiced your religion from childhood, and you weren't just a recent convert in your adulthood, your religion is an accident of birth. The only reason that you are a Christian or a Jew is because you were born in the West. You were born in the United States of America. Because that's the religion that your mother taught you. That's the religion that was practiced in your home, in your community, in your neighborhood. Your religion, including mine, was an accident of birth. Let me say that again. Your religion is an accident of birth, whether you're Christian, Jew, or even Islamic. The thing that we have to do, especially as Christians and Jews, is stop letting our religion be simply an accident of birth. Excuse me, I'll take that back. The thing that we have to do, especially Christian, Jews, and even more so Muslims, is stop letting our religious faith be the result of an accident of birth. If you're Islamic or Muslim, it's probably the only religion that was taught in your country. If you're born in America Islamic and you practice this faith ever since you were a child, it's because it's what your mother taught you. It's what your grandmother taught you, what your father taught you. It's the religion of your community, of your household, your community, your neighborhood, what have you. Same thing if you're a Christian or a Jew. And we have to stop letting, the reason why Christians and Jews have to stop letting their faith just be a result of an accident of birth is because usually it means that you're just ignorant. You don't know enough about your own faith to keep it, let alone someone else's faith that's ridiculous, so that you don't fall into that. And if you're Islamic, you need to not let your religion be an accident of birth, because it makes no sense to go around trying to kill the entire world. That's not peace, and you know it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you can make an intelligent choice like that. But if you believe that, if you've been taught that all your life, I understand. But what you at least need to do is read the Bible. Read that book that you refer to as the people, instead of just referring it to the people of the book. Read it. Make your own decision. You at least need to do that. Stop letting your faith, whatever it is, simply be an accident of birth. Be informed. I can honestly say that I've looked at this. I had friends in college who were in transcendental meditation, who were into Scientology and metaphysics, all kinds of different religions. I can at least say that my faith is not an accident of birth. It is a conscious, it is the result of a conscious process, the result of study, the result of comparison, the result of knowledge. As well as experience. I don't sit here saying what I'm saying today and yesterday and all these years of preaching and teaching and ministry because it's as a result of an accident of birth. I can go toe to toe with Muslims. I can go toe to toe with Jehovah's Witnesses. I can go toe to toe with Mormons, Buddhists, Hindu, whatever. I love it when a Jehovah's Witness comes to the door. I'm waiting on some Mormons to knock one day. They came one time in Louisiana, when we lived in Louisiana, but I don't know, it seemed like they were afraid to stay and talk to me, you know. But I'm waiting, you know, especially since Mitt Romney is running, I'm waiting for some Mormons to knock on the door. I'm gonna have to include that in my prayers for some more. I'm serious. I've been saying I'm just gonna, next time I see somebody, because they ride bikes and they wear white shirts and black pants and little black tie and they have their little helmet on, and you always see at least two of them. So every now and then I see them on the street, but I'm driving somewhere when I see them. I said the next time I see some Mormons, I gotta go up there and give them my address and request that they come and bring their materials with them. That's gonna really be fun. I got a lot of questions for them. I can't even get, I don't know, it must be a sign on me in the spirit somewhere. I can't get a Jehovah's Witness to come my way anymore. It was one walking, you know, right across the driveway one day. I said, hey, you wanna come in? I don't know if they, you know, got a little book or something and they got their own do not call list or something or whatever, but he went next door, walked across my driveway and across my grass and across the neighbor's grass to go knock next door. Would not, when I saw him, he wouldn't even look my way.
Well, most people, when they see you for the first time, are always intimidated.
I'm not intimidated. I got 2 arms and 2 legs like everybody else.
You still deny the fact that you look like you can bite someone's head off.
I told you, like, when Alonzo first met you, he was excited. He's like, yes, when he lived with his dad, he opened the door. All his excitement just went away. He was like,
But I mean, he was loaded with, but he had a big old satchel of stuff. It was pulling into one side. He had all this material walking. I was like, hey, you want to come on in? Don't want to learn the truth? Went next door. What?
What did you do when you went next door?
just went next door to talk to the person.
What did I do with what?
No, what did he do when he went next door?
He went and knocked on the door. I just came on inside. I didn't go running after him. I'm going to run after a couple of Mormons if I see some Mormons. Or if I see, like now I'm really going to make an effort to talk to Muslims. Maybe kind of dangerous, but I'm going to do it. But, you know, that was kind of the transitional phase of the series there. You know, my personal experiences and my bold statement that we cannot continue letting our faith be merely an accident of birth. Now I kind of want to transition into a comparison of all of those verses from the Quran with various verses from the Bible. And in other words, what should we now do? Now that we know that we have somebody out there who is day and night plotting to kill us, other than the devil himself. We know that there is a group of people, they say there are 1 billion Muslims in the world. So there are a lot, there are millions, maybe not all of them are plotting and planning or wanting anything to do with killing us. But we know that there's quite a few people in the world who want to kill us unless we convert to Islam. What are we going to do about it? What should we do? Anybody? Give me a couple of suggestions.
Try to get it on the news.
Try to get it on the news? Yes, that is something we should do. In other words, we need to inform people that this is actually happening so that they can know the truth.
Right now, while you were talking, I looked up cases and found a case in Tulsa about a Captain Paul Fields, who was dismissed. He was ordered to have officers under his command attend a law enforcement appreciation day, which was hosted by the Islamic Society of Tulsa. There is an Islamic Society here in Tulsa. If you want to be known real quick, all you gotta do is go over there and try to give them a Bible, and you'll probably be on the news real soon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But anyway,
I remember that story. He refused to go.
Yeah, the captain, he was a Christian. He objected to order on religious grounds, but he was immediately stripped of his command, transferred to another division, and subjected to an internal investigation. He was ordered to attend and have his officers attend their law enforcement appreciation day, where the Muslims were going to have a 23-minute prayer and all this other stuff for Muslims, in honor of Muslims, but he wasn't allowed to share his faith in return as well. He would have to sit there and endure their service with Muslim beliefs. And so he was not going to go and do that. He didn't want to go, and he said, my officers go to this either. So it's an ongoing case right now. Also, here at the Tulsa's Muslim Society, Islamic Society of Tulsa, there was a gentleman who is a Muslim who is considered public enemy number 1 right now in the Tulsa Muslim community because he openly condemned the terrorist attacks of Osama bin Laden and other Islamic terrorists. This is back in 2007. And because he openly, criticized those attacks, trying to urge them to stop killing in the name of Islam, and he called bin Laden and other top Islamic terrorists cowards and stated that some mosques and Islamic institutions in the U.S. and around the world have become tools in their hands and are used for collecting funds for their criminal acts. Because he said that, they just made him a public enemy number 1. So criticizing Islamic terrorists can be hazardous to your health, even here in Tulsa. So he's got a case against him.
I mentioned yesterday that there was the FBI raided a terrorist ring right here in Tulsa. They have a string of used car dealerships, and they were funneling the profits from that car dealership into terrorist organizations. Mm-hmm. Millions of dollars every year from right here in Tulsa, from this one particular car dealership ring. So we've definitely been infiltrated. I've got literally probably another 50 to 100 scriptures to go over to conclude my message. Mm-hmm. And we've got, it's going on 5 o'clock, it's 4:40, and we have the program starting at 7. And I don't want to try to rush through this. Plus, I'm getting a bit tired, and I want to be able to do justice to this part of the series. So I'm going to end today, and we will probably either we will conclude, maybe have a special service Wednesday, or sometime this week, or at the very latest next Sunday, for the conclusion of this. Because, like I said, I have already eliminated some things that I wanted to minister on, because I just thought it was just a bit much. But this next section, this is what I whittled it down to. And I definitely want to be able to take my time, give it all my energy, and make sure you get it, because it's real important. And it's the Isle of the Antichrist section. Okay, and I've whittled that down quite a bit. Maybe I shouldn't or whatever, but and also what to do. Like I was asking the question, what should we do? So I'm just going to invite you to tune in to our next session. We'll put out a blast about it, or you can give us a call and ask when we are going to have that that part of the series. You can contact us at area code 918-955-971. That's 918-955-971. That's it, 918-955-7971.
Right.
One more time, because I'm starting to feel like I'm about to fall over here. I've been going, we've been going since Friday evening, really. And now it's coming up on late Sunday afternoon. Again, you can call the church office at 918-955-9791.
797.
918-955-7971.
Okay. Someone else come up and get it, because I'm fried. Come on up and get it.
Well, we want.
Casey can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, can do it. Tell them,
Go
how
ahead.
to contact us.
Fix your head.
My television.
Can I see your
It's called
phone?
next to that.
Go ahead.
918-955-7971.
Speak up.
Speak up louder.
918-955-7971.
918-955-7971.
Yay.
That's right. 918-955-7971. Okay. Now, you can contact us by phone. If we don't answer, you can leave a message. We'll get back with you. You can also text us at that same number. You can text us or call us at that number. You can also reach us by email at TREE, _OF_life, LIFE, at sbcglobal.net. Samboycat Global, GLOBAL.net. TREE _of_life at sbcglobal.net. Spell out TREE, TREE,
Yes.
the underscore, OF, the underscore, life, LIFE, at sbcglobal.net. And I'd just like to sign off and say shalom. We will post when we will try to bring the conclusion. It may take longer than I thought. We may be in the series another couple more weeks, possibly. But we will let you know. Shalom.
Hello.